I'm just going to the gym after, so.
Sweet. What are you hitting today?
I'm training for a High Rocks now. Maybe that's coming up. So I'm doing a little
Huge.
High Rocks workout.
High Rocks has just exploded.
Oh, I know. It's insane. It's insane. Me and my boyfriend tried to get tickets for, I think it was Texas. And we did not get tickets. So in Atlanta, we're doing Atlanta.
Okay.
It's the first week of November, or it's November 1st. And when the tickets came out, I had my laptop, my work laptop, my phone. He had his work laptop, his phone, his personal laptop, and we got them.
Yeah.
But it's like getting concert tickets.
It's right, literally. Right? It made me think of when the PlayStation 5 came out. Like everyone, like stores were clearing out, and you had to get your laptop out, and it took weeks and weeks. Yeah, that's crazy. One of my buddies, he lives in Singapore, and High Rocks started in Europe and then got really big in Asia. And when he started talking about it, this was just like a year or two ago, I had never heard of it. Yeah. And then he kind of kept talking about it. And then all of a sudden, especially in the Orange Theory space,
Yeah.
bunch of coaches and members started doing High Rocks. And then there's a former coach from Raleigh Midtown, Sammy, who found his own group fitness gym called Empire Training Academy. And they have a High Rocks class specifically taught by a High Rocks certified coach, which is something I didn't even know you could get certified in.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I learned. I was at the Arnold Classic in March and ran into an Orange Theory coach I'd never met before. And she was like, yeah, I got High Rocks coach certified. I was like, what? Went to their website. You can get certified as an athlete and as a coach. But yeah, I mean, well, it's so accessible compared to CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have the gymnastics or the crazy weight training.
Yeah.
Not to say High Rocks is easy, because it's not, but in terms of barrier to entry, I feel like it's a lot lower than
I agree.
CrossFit. Well, hey, before we get too into the woods, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. My name's Dana Kiger. I am certified personal trainer, certified group fitness instructor. Let's see. I went to James Madison University for school for my undergrad.
Where's that?
In Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Okay, that's right. I knew that. Okay.
Yep. And then spent a year in Chapel Hill, where I started coaching at Orange Theory, where me and Jake met. And then I went to the University of Georgia for grad school. Spent 2 years there. I was a graduate assistant with fitness and wellness with campus recreation there. Got my master's in student affairs, graduated in May. And now I am living in Charlotte. I work with fitness programs at at UNC Charlotte.
Awesome. So fitness all the way. When did you know fitness was going to be it for you in terms of a career path?
I feel like I didn't know until, I would say, a while in. I started with teaching group fitness classes in January of 2019. So it's been about 6 years, a little over 6 years now that I've been teaching group fitness. And I started it as a hobby. I was trying to make friends in college, trying to figure out where kind of my place was going to be. And I loved UREC is what it was called at JMU. I loved our rec center. I loved spending time there. I loved going to group fitness classes. And it's kind of funny because what got me into it was I started in a prep course through UREC to be a group fitness instructor. And I actually signed up for it on accident, which I always think was really funny. I thought I was signing up for an info session about it.
Oh.
And then I went the first day and I realized I had actually signed up to be in the class for the entire semester. So I kind of just took it as a sign because I was already considering it. And I was just, this is my sign. This is the right decision. I went through college doing that and I loved it, but I never really thought it would be something that I did long term.
Were you certified? I know you said you're in the prep course, but when you started teaching group fitness, did you have to have a certification?
So when I started at JMU, you had to go through their internal prep course, which So you didn't really get an actual certification. I didn't get my first, I was like CPR certified, but I didn't get my first real, like I got my ACE group fitness certification right after I graduated. And that was what let me see. Yeah, so I graduated, and then I think it was like right after I graduated, then I went through the summer, and that summer I started working at like this small gym. I was started personal training there, but it was a very small gym. I was like a group training coach, and then I moved to Chapel Hill. Got involved with Orange Theory because I had a friend who was a coach there who kind of like talked to me a little bit about it. It was
Who's your
Casey.
friend? Oh, it's Casey.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I knew that.
Uh-huh. And she was the one that kind of like I had seen the like Orange Theory pop up, and I had like talked to her a little bit about it. And I was like, kind of like, what's your experience been like? I had never really done Orange Theory before, so I was kind of like, what's it about? Do you like it? Um, yeah, I kind of found myself in like the campus rec, kind of realized like, oh, I could do this as like a full-time job. Like I never really thought about that could be like a full-time job. And so I kind of found myself there, and then the path's just honestly kind of unfolded, and I've enjoyed the stepping stones along the way. So we're just gonna keep rolling.
Awesome. Awesome. What do you feel like about fitness that has kept you in? Like what do you get from it? You can
I
say
think in
that both
my
as someone who does it and as someone who provides the
yeah,
experience.
I think in my job right now, like in my full-time job working in fitness, I think what keeps me in it is getting to develop other people. Like I think I'm really at that point where that's something that I love doing, working, whether it's personal trainers or group fitness instructors. I love getting to see somebody come in, have the passion, be really excited, and then help them like develop the skills and the confidence that they need to like excel as either a trainer or an instructor. So like that's what I really like on that side. But then on the more like personal side, I would say like I've always loved pretty much like all types of activity. I've always loved running. I've always enjoyed biking. I've enjoyed swimming. I've enjoyed lifting. Like I did gymnastics. Like I did soccer. Like I did a lot of like sports and things. And I've just yoga, Pilates, bar. Like I've tried it all. I have my favorites, but I really do like appreciate just all types of like moving my body, getting active. I just like to be able to do it all. And it really kind of, it's one of those things that helps me kind of escape and, you know, feel good. And yeah.
I think fitness is the best form of therapy. Not to say that therapy might not be needed sometimes, of course,
Yeah.
but I think as an escape and also just, especially when you're moving, whether it's walking, running, whatever, cycling, swimming, I feel like your brain is more active when you're doing those things. So even if you're just going for like an easy jog, I think it's so much easier just to mull over problems and think about them and kind of come to solutions when you're moving like that. So as like a almost a meditative practice, I feel like fitness can be really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it also keeps you honest in the sense that, you know, you can, especially if you're weightlifting, you can either move the weight or you can't. And so, it forces you to confront your limitations. And I feel like can really keep you humble if you let it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I definitely always feel like even when I don't want to exercise, I'm always glad that I did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Just getting out of the door sometimes is the hardest part, but I always feel better afterwards. So I always remind myself of that as well.
for sure. And I say this a lot, and I'm sure I've said it on the pod before, but I always say to clients or whoever, especially if they're unsure about starting, I always say, listen, whatever your goal is, strength, aesthetics, weight loss, whatever, that'll come in time. But the first time you go to the gym, especially if you don't want to, and then you leave, you will feel the benefits of the stress reduction, of the endorphins hit. Like the mental benefits are immediate.
Yes.
And I feel like that's so huge.
Yes, that's one of the things I talk about a lot with clients that I work with is just the importance of having some sort of like intrinsic motivation when it comes to exercise. Because a lot of people come in and like they want either to, especially if they don't maybe have experience, that much experience with like exercise and like, what a realistic goals look like and things like that when it comes to starting a exercise routine. Sometimes they come in with unrealistic goals or wanting to just look a certain way, and that's the only reason that they want to work out is just to achieve a certain number on the scale or a certain body image look. But I really always try to emphasize like digging out some sort of like intrinsic goal, because at the end of the day, like that's what's going to lead to the adherence to the workout program and how you're going to get the most benefit in the long
1000%, 1000%. Because to your point, without the intrinsic motivation, when you don't want to, then you're just not going to.
run. Exactly.
If it's all like
Yeah.
extrinsic, you're just gonna be like, yeah, well, I'll do that goal later.
Mhm.
I don't really care too much. What do you feel like as a trainer, group fitness instructor? Like, what do you hear most in terms of like goals that people are trying to achieve? Like just like the classic things that you hear.
I feel like in the space that I work in right now, I hear a lot of like weight loss is probably one of the biggest ones that I hear. I typically work with a lot of older older-ish clients. So I would say a lot of the clients that I've been working with currently are more on the beginner side, weight loss goals or goals related more to um, like being able to just get around easier
Yeah.
in the day to day, like those activities of daily living, all that, all those good things. So with that comes, flexibility, like being able to walk up the stairs without getting out of breath, picking up the grandkids, like all things like that. So I think those are some of the biggest ones that um, I have currently been working with, probably the most.
Yeah. And then what do you feel like the biggest obstacles in people's paths are to like adhering to seeing their goal to completion?
Mm, I would say, I mean, I feel like time is always a big barrier to exercise for a lot of people, especially as life happens, like being able to always set aside the time, and then also like some sort of social support. So I think
Mm.
that comes with like the people that they're around in their daily life. Like, do they have friends that exercise? Are they married? Does their partner exercise? Is it important to their kids? Like, kind of, I feel like I see that sometimes like be, I guess, a barrier in a way, because if you're not surrounding yourself with people that have like-minded goals or like-minded views on the importance of exercise and like staying active, then it can be hard to adhere to an exercise program or plan in the long run.
Totally, totally. I'm really glad you brought that up. It can be challenging when you're the only person in your circle with
Mhm.
that sort of goal. Even if maybe you went to the doctor and they're like, hey, XYZ is happening to your body. You really need to, take some time and do some exercising. But if you're the only one, and maybe the folks in your life not only don't exercise but don't see the value in it, I feel
Mhm.
like it can be really hard because you almost might start to feel like a crazy person. Like, oh,
Yeah.
they're asking me why am I getting up to go to the gym 3 times a week, and they almost get peer pressured to
Yeah.
not,
Yes.
um, which sucks. Which sucks. What do you do when the social component is the barrier and they're having a hard time sticking to it just because they are alone in that fitness journey?
I think in those situations, like if it's someone that I'm working with as a trainer, going back and reminding them, I guess, of their goals and their why behind why they're there, like what brought them here in the first place, and allowing them to see the progress we've made, depending on how long we have worked together, so that they can kind of get that boost that what I'm doing is working, and I guess reminding them of their why, I think, would be my first thing. And then going back and seeing kind of the progress that we've made and having those conversations about maybe how their body just feels on like a day-to-day basis. Like I was recently working with a lady who, had she had been in like some car accidents in the past and like had a lot of like pain in her neck.
Mm.
And like now within some time that we've been working together, she brought up the other day that like she's noticed just in her day-to-day life, just like her neck, like she feels like her neck doesn't cause her as much discomfort and pain anymore as it used to. So like reminding of some of those things that have happened as a positive result of like taking part in regular physical activity.
Yeah, totally. And I know you can probably relate to this based off the training that you've been doing recently, and we'll get to that. But, you know, a lot of times, especially in fitness, you achieve a thing and you're happy in the moment, and then immediately your mind shifts to the next goal, which, I mean, that's human nature. So there's really no avoiding that. However, I think it's good, especially being a trainer, to remind people of the wins that they've had so far. It's like, hey, you've already achieved things that you
Mm-hmm.
said you wanted to,
Yeah.
and you're better for it. So let's remember that as we're chasing this next goal.
Mm-hmm.
um, I know it can be discouraging when plateaus happen, but you got to keep on. Yeah, there's someone who I've been working with. I haven't been training them, but they've been asking me for a lot of advice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like the question I get the most is, what should I do? Just period. Like, what should I do to get healthy, to be better at the gym? And my first question is always, well, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, well, whatever. It doesn't even matter what the answer is. It's like, okay, well, how much time are you willing to spend to achieve your goals?
Yeah.
Uh, like, okay, well, whatever the answer is also doesn't matter. Uh, but, it's like, okay, well, the more time you spend, the faster you'll get results. The less time you spend, the slower you'll get results. And, if you're doing nothing, if you come to me, you're like, hey, what should I do? And you're doing nothing. I'm like, which of these machines are, it's like, actually just do anything. They're I know, but what should I do? I'm like, no, actually, if I'm not going to train you, if you don't have it in the budget right now or whatever, that's totally fine. I'm happy to give you advice. But if you're doing nothing, go do anything consistently
Yeah.
for 4 weeks, whatever the time, and you'll see, or at the very least, you'll feel benefits.
Yes.
Um, and one of the folks I have in mind, they have some aesthetic goals, but the consistency in the gym has been hit or miss.
Mm.
But they've been more consistent than they were, so reps are going up and weight is going up. Jake, I'm not seeing any progress. I'm like, well, let's see your workout. They show me. I'm like, well, you've gotten stronger, and you're also doing the weights that you've gotten stronger with for more reps, so you've got better strength and better endurance. Like, yeah, but I don't see it in the mirror. I'm like, well, it's been 7 weeks and you've been consistent for 4 of those 7. So, you know what I mean? Like, uh, I don't know what to tell you. So, how do you go about setting realistic expectations in the gym
For myself or with other people?
for other people, and,
Other
and
people.
then yourself? We'll get to you after.
Um, I think like a lot of that comes, I mean, when I have like my initial consultation with anybody that I work with, like that's one of my main goals or main objectives when I have those consultations is to talk about any specific goals and then the timeline related to those goals. So I normally will, through having those conversations, if there's any unrealistic timeline, I'm nipping it in the butt pretty early on, just to make sure, and explaining like the why. Like you can't
Yes.
expect to lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. Like that's just not simply how it works. And I'll kind of explain and provide like the educational piece as to like why that's not realistic and that's not sustainable and it's not healthy.
Yeah, not safe.
And not safe. Yeah. So I think that's really how I go about it, but also like I'm somebody, for me, if somebody tells me to do something, like I always want to know why I'm doing it, or
Totally.
like I'm a big why person. So that's something that I really do emphasize in those conversations, is not just saying, yeah, that's not going to work. Like, let's talk about what can work, but like explaining why that's not safe and not going to work. And I think that normally goes over like pretty well, because typically through those conversations, we're able to come to some sort of like realistic goal that we're going to work towards, and like checkpoints that we have along the way to be able to see, how we're making progress. And also having the conversation of like, like I mentioned before, I've worked with a lot of people looking for like weight loss, and having the conversations about that, weight fluctuates. And if you weigh yourself one day and you're a pound heavier, that, like, that's not to say that we're not making progress. And so I like to have those conversations too when it comes to weight loss. And then also I do like in-body scans, we do with the clients
The
that I work
embody.
with. So like talking through what all those things mean, because that provides a lot more details than just your weight that's on like one number on the scale. You get to see a lot more. So then, we're able to see if, weight has stayed the same, but maybe like body fat has gone down and like muscle's gone up. Like we can still see all those details. So I normally like have those kind of educational conversations as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if the goal is weight loss, but instead you just end up recomping,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, I mean, that's like a huge win. If
Yeah.
you lose 2 pounds of fat and gain 2 pounds of muscle, I was like, oh, I mean, that's incredible. So I think the education component, especially when you get like more data with something like an in-body scan,
Mm.
is so huge, because
Yeah.
the people are so hung up on numbers, and like to a certain degree, rightly so, because
Yeah.
like data is important, and
Yes.
it doesn't lie. So like, you have to take that info. But if you're on a weight loss journey and you're kind of stuck at a weight, but your clothes fit a little bit better and you like the way you look more, it's like, okay, well, some recomp has probably happened,
Yeah.
and you're still winning,
Yeah.
especially if you look better, feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's huge. What for me, I think, especially likewise being a group fitness instructor trainer like you are, one of my goals anytime whether I'm training someone, group fitness, just a conversation, whatever, is to try and instill a sense of lifestyle in terms of incorporating fitness into it
Mm-hmm.
and treating it like sort of a lifelong journey, because it is. Do you have a way about doing that? Obviously, it's going to vary person to person, and you know, not everybody wants it to be part of their lifestyle. They just might have a goal and then they want to be done. But how do you try and try and instill that lifestyle want into them? Part of that comes from the why, I assume, but I'm
Yeah,
curious.
I think a big part of that does come from the why. And then I think honestly, getting something like fitness to be a part of your lifestyle just takes consistency, and like building the habits, and then also trying to find like a way, like exercises and things that the person actually does enjoy doing. I think that's a big part, is making exercise enjoyable and fun. It's not, that doesn't mean easy. It's not supposed to be easy, but like I genuinely do think exercising should be to a certain degree fun.
Totally.
So I think like that's something I really try to dig out in the clients that I do work with, is like finding, either different exercise modalities or certain types of equipment they really like using. And then on the other side, also things they don't like. They don't like, because I want to know what they don't like as well. And a lot of times if someone's coming in brand new, they have no idea what they like or what they don't like. So
Right.
it's just like, I think creating that, like open environment for like feedback. Like that's something I also talk about a lot, where I'm like, yes, I'm training you and I'm, giving a workout plan, but that doesn't mean you can't give me feedback. If we do something and you're like, no, I don't like that, I don't like using that piece of equipment, like let me know. So I really do like to have those conversations and like set that from the very beginning that I'm going to introduce this, I'm going to introduce that, we're going to try this, we're going to try that. And like, please give me feedback along the way so that I can make your workout programs and plans like as enjoyable as they can be for you, so that it's something that you look forward to and something that if once we're done working together, whatever that is, like you can take the exercises that we do and, incorporate them into your future workout routines that you might be doing on your own.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, if if I've heard, you hear about people having horror stories with like a personal trainer where the trainer lays out what they're going to do, forces them to do it, and then they're like, yeah, I don't like that. The trainer's like, well, no, I'm the trainer. This is what we're doing. And I feel like that is terrible for workout adherence, because
Mm-hmm.
you do have to incorporate, to your point, certain things that they don't like. But I feel like as a trainer, one of the biggest tools you have is the ability to receive feedback
Mm-hmm.
and adjust accordingly. Because if there's stuff they like to do and they're like, hey, I'd like to, we just finished this 8 weeks, I want to keep these things. Okay, cool. You found something we like. We're going to keep getting better at that. And, the rest of the things we can change. And if there's something along the way, as we, introduce these new things that you don't like, sub it out. And then they're like, oh, awesome. Like, this is something I want to be a part of because I actually have some agency involved.
Yeah.
And I think that is just huge for adherence.
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally. Me too.
Now, so when you finished from JMU,
Mm-hmm.
why did you move to Chapel Hill?
So when I was in my senior year at JMU, I had a job that I'd already accepted I was like business route, corporate, and I was planning on doing that. And then I kind of had, what could you say? Epiphany, maybe is the right word.
Yeah.
Like my beginning of my senior year, I'd already accepted this job. I accepted it over the summer, and it was like October-ish, and I started having these thoughts of like, maybe I want to go to grad school, maybe I want to do like something more in education. And then I can also know I can still kind of be involved in fitness, because I wasn't for sure if I wanted to do like full-time fitness. I mean, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. But I knew that I loved working with students, and I knew that I loved working in a college setting, and I knew I could work in rec sports. I was like, we're hitting students, we're hitting college, we're hitting fitness. Like, that sounds pretty cool to me. Um, but at that point, I knew nothing about how to go to grad school, how to pay for grad school, where to go to grad school, like absolutely nothing. So I was really lucky that I had a really awesome mentor who was my supervisor at the time, um, through the rec center there. And she really helped me kind of like realize that it was okay to change my mind. Like, it was very normal to change my mind, because it can be very hard, especially when you're, in college, like feeling like you have one path and that is the only path that you are allowed to go down. And if you veer one way to the right or left, your whole life is messed up. And so she helped me kind of find these. It was an opportunity that UNC Chapel Hill, with their rec department, they were doing like year-long internships that were meant for people that had just graduated college. It was so to go the whole, and I was like, that could be cool. I could just do it for a year, and then I can decide if I want to do grad school or if I want to go back, do the corporate, do the business. It's just a year. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I kind of found myself at Chapel Hill. I applied, and I was like, and I still had my other job at this point, but I told myself,
Okay.
I was like, if I get the Chapel Hill job, that would be my sign to like rescind my offer or my acceptance from the other job. And so I ended up getting the Chapel Hill offer. So then I was like, okay. So I rescinded my offer from the other job. And then that was what got me to Chapel Hill. And I'm definitely glad that I had the experience there, because I definitely would not be down the career path that I am today if I wouldn't have had that experience there.
Totally. Well, so what about your year at Chapel Hill was formative? Like, what did you learn? What did you take away from that time?
Mm. That was a very big self discovery year for me. It was definitely my first time working as a, like professional, like overseeing students who were, at that point, a lot of them, I was only a year older than a lot of them. But I'll shout her out. Her name was Aaliyah. She was my supervisor that I had, and she was fresh out of grad school. And this was like her first full-time job. She had started in like June, and then I came in August. And so it was kind of like she was definitely kind of probably figuring out her role still. And then I came in as just a confused hot mess.
What year was this? This
this
summer?
was this was like right before I started at Orange Theory. So this was like August of what, 2022?
22, yeah.
Yeah, because I graduated in May of 2022. So then I had like the summer
Okay.
at home, and then I
Okay.
moved to Chapel Hill.
Yep.
And I think in that year, I definitely just learned a lot more about like student affairs and like what actually working as a professional in higher ed student affairs looks like. Because I had seen it from, the student lens, and then seeing kind of what my supervisors and the people above me were doing. But I got to really, for the first time experience that as a professional. You could say I was kind of in that in between, like being an intern. I was kind of in that, in between student and like full-time professional. But I think having her as my supervisor, she really helped me look into the grad school options, like really talk about what my goals were, long term, short term, and kind of help me really see that like that was going to be the next step for me.
Cool. So when you fleshed that out, what did you realize? Like, okay, she's asking you questions about the future, and, maybe you didn't know specifically where you would end up, but where did you think you were going to go at that time when you're like, okay, fitness is for me?
I
What was the revelation?
I was like, I really had no idea before. Like when I say I felt like I was honestly in such a just hot mess, express the way my mind was when I arrived, and she would probably say the same thing. Like I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know what's next. I had no idea. But it was nice because a girl that I was living with, she was we were in the exact same boat. We were worked at JMU together. We didn't know each other. Were applying for the same internships, just different areas. I was fitness. She was more of like the operations side. Um, and then we ended up both finding out that we were both had accepted these internships. Then we ended up living together, and we were both in that I don't know what I'm doing. So it was definitely nice to have someone that I could confide in. Like she understood how I felt, I understood how she felt. So that definitely helped. But I would say going into Chapel Hill, I definitely had the thought that grad school might be the next step. It was really just figuring out where and how. And I would say that is something that Aaliyah really helped me figure out, is talk about what I wanted out of a grad school experience in terms of the university itself and the graduate assistantship experience, because that was how I was going to pay for school. So I was not
Mm-hmm.
going to grad school without a graduate assistantship. And I wanted a graduate assistantship in fitness. So like that's where the fitness side came in, and I was not willing to compromise on any of those things. So she's the one that really helped me find and kind of connect me with the right people, pushed me. We went to like conferences to like talk to people I probably wouldn't have talked to if it wouldn't have been for her introducing me to them and like telling me.
Remember you doing a handful of conferences
Yes, I went
during
to a
that.
lot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that was definitely very and it just helped me honestly. Like I got to know a lot of people that year in like the rec sports field that I still am like in contact with and know when I go to conferences. That I'm definitely glad that I was pushed that first year to like get out there and meet people. So I think it really did set me up for success still to this day.
What what was your conference experience like? Sounds like it was pretty network heavy initially, and then now that you go to conferences, is it a little bit different? Like on what you're
I'm
doing?
definitely able to relax a bit more when I go to conferences now. When I went in the past, I was so focused on networking and like talking to this person, seeing who was going to be hiring, who was going to have GA positions opening, talking to, if there were current graduate assistants that were there, like talking to them to like, because I knew they would be probably on the hiring committees. And so I was like, they need to know who I am. I need to introduce myself to the students that are here from all of those schools because they might have a say and be on some of the hiring committees, and I want them to like me. And so now when I go, I can relax a bit more and not be so stressed about having to talk to everybody.
Yep. Do you do any sort of like presentations at these conferences? And if so, what's the material?
I have in the past. So I've presented at some of the more fitness-based conference. These ones I was just talking about were the ones that were more like campus rec based. So they were more of like a professional conference. And then I go to Fit Expo every year, which is a fitness-based conference that is more student-based. So it's normally like all students from universities from like pretty much the entire like Southeast. It's normally around like 400 to 500 people that are there, so like mid-sized. But I've presented two different cycle classes at those
Oh,
conferences.
fun.
Yeah, so that's been a lot of fun that I got to like present my like specialty classes there.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Because that was like cycling was one of your first like group fitness.
Yes, that was like what got me started was
Okay. Yep.
cycling. But I've been teaching cycling for a little over 6 years now. I guess like 6.5. It'll be coming up on 7 in January.
Cool. Yes. I do remember that
Hmm.
about your initial experience going into Orange Theory. So, yeah, talk to me about your Orange Theory experience. What did that provide for you? What was that like? Yeah.
Yeah, Orange Theory definitely was. It was my first experience working in fitness outside of the campus rec space. So I will say that is what really helped me elevate my. I mean, you're a coach there, but it really is what helped me like elevate my like coaching skills. Because it's very different than teaching, just teaching a group fitness class. Like it really does kind of combine like half group fitness, half personal training. Like it really is kind of a mesh of the two while having to be on time and cue to the music and like
Crazy.
there's a lot going on. But I really enjoyed my Orange Theory experience. I think it was probably one of the things out of all of the different experiences I've had within teaching and training, like that was probably the one that really I feel like I how do you say this? I like learned the most in the shortest amount of time. Like if that makes sense.
It makes sense for sure. How long were you at Orange Theory for? Was it like 7 months, 8 months?
It
I
was
can't
like I
remember.
feel like it was so long, but it really wasn't. Like I was there, I think it was like 8 to 9 months, and then I also coached in Tampa last summer for like
Oh,
summer, so like four
cool.
months there. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Yeah,
Hmm.
well, we'll call it 8, 9 months.
Yeah.
Just for the time in Chapel Hill, that is, of course. Um, my from my perspective, you came in because you had the experience from the cycling, and so
Right.
you came in pretty solid. But you were one of the people who, like, as a coach, just like drank everything up and then boom, 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 leveled up real quick. And you weren't there that long, but you built a following. People were bummed when you left, which is like that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
you you want people to enjoy your classes so much that when it's time for the next thing, they're bummed because they get something out of it, and so
Hmm.
um, that's awesome. Um, yeah, Orange Theory is crazy with all that timing stuff. I
Yeah.
used to
It
get so
definitely.
nervous.
Huh?
I used to get so nervous when I first became a coach. I was like,
Yeah.
what if I screw up the timing? I'm like, then what?
I know. It definitely like challenged me a lot, and but in a good way. Like it made me feel like I could. It's almost like one of those things where I'm like, if I were going to go coach somewhere, I'm like, well, I survived Orange Theory coaching and Orange Theory OTF camp.
Yes,
Like
right,
I can
right.
do it. I'm like, and I had the full. I know. I think different studios do it different ways, but I'm like, I had the full OT Fit camp with like the group and the whole ranking of like where you are, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the live audition with like real people.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that live audition. process is very stressful. And to
Yeah,
your point, like, you know where you stand. So
I know.
like, and it obviously it changes, day to day, depending on how much prep you do and how much you're able to apply how much you're able to apply the feedback that you receive. But it is a very stressful environment. And then to your point, like, if you bomb the audition, they might let you try again, but you just like, you didn't waste your time because you would get paid,
Yeah.
but you don't get the job,
Yeah.
so it's kind of high stakes. Um, I remember my dad, when I did my audition or was going through the process, he was like, "Are you sure you want to like not waste your time, but you sure you want to like put all this effort into a job you might not get?" And it was still like peak COVID time, more or less, when I was going
Yeah.
through it. So I was like, Dad, I need a job in the fitness space, and they're hiring, so I'm putting my eggs in this basket. Obviously, I ended up working out, but
Yeah.
um, okay. So, how do you feel like your time in Georgia shaped you?
I would say the 2 years that I spent at UGA were, I mean, I definitely learned so much more about when I think more on a big part of my job is the working with student piece, like the student affairs side. So I definitely learned a lot about, I guess, how to work with college students and strategies on how to run meetings that they're going to actually be engaged in, and how to navigate certain conversations with students, and just also, I mean, just a lot about student affairs and higher education as a whole, with that I didn't know before. um but I'll say within my 2 years at UGA, I had a lot of autonomy in what I did. And I'll say, like, within my time at Chapel Hill, when in my role with fitness there, I was learning a lot. I didn't know a lot about how to run a program. Like, me and my supervisor Aaliyah were working together, like her and I, like, a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I came to Georgia, I definitely had gained a lot of those experiences and skills on, like, how to run things, how to, organize meetings, run meetings, how to, properly communicate this and that. So I was able to kind of run a little bit more solo on some
Mm-hmm.
things. Which I think definitely helped me in my, professional skill set and stuff. But I honestly, I mean, I had so much fun at Georgia. It was definitely a very fun 2 years, and it was such a fun town to be in for those 2 years too, being in Athens. And yeah, I'll say, like, through my time at Georgia was when I got to get a lot more involved on the personal training side of things. When I was at Chapel Hill, I was still very heavy on the group fitness side. And then through being at Georgia, that was one of my main goals within my time there in my graduate assistantship. Our personal training program was a lot bigger than it was in Chapel Hill. So I knew that was an area that I could get a lot more involved and really kind of grow my skill set on the personal training side.
Hmm. What skill sets did you feel like you needed to develop for personal training that you didn't have from group fitness?
I say probably the confidence, like, working one on one with somebody. And then also the confidence to, 'cause like I said, I was, like, kind of in the oversight. So, like, properly evaluating those, like, one on one
Mm,
sessions and stuff was something that I did a lot because, through, I guess, my big group fitness background. And then with being in Orange Theory, that was probably one of my, where I struggled more while I was a coach at
on the
Orange
weight
Theory,
floor.
on the weight floor, like working one on one, while also I was always so caught up because I did not want to miss a beat. I did not want to miss a count like that. I wanted to stay on beat to the
Oh
music
yeah.
all the time. So I think that was always my biggest struggle point, was like making time for all of those, like, one on one corrections and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
while also being attentive to the timing. So I'll say that was probably what at UGA where I was able to grow the most, was the one-on-one working with PT, providing that, like, one-on-one training.
Yeah. What do you think makes a good personal training session?
Hmm. I think there's a lot. I think the client trainer relationship is one of the main ones that come to my mind, and how, the trainer is able to interact with their client on more of, like, a personal level, whether that's asking about how was, your kid's soccer game, or how was your art festival you went to, or like whatever it was, like having that connection is something that I always look for. I think also demonstrating being able to adapt if something doesn't, like if there's for your client comes in, maybe you have a full body day prepared and then they're like, yeah, my knee's been kind of bothering me today, I don't know. So being able to like adapt and like, okay, we're going to take a break from lower body, let's do like a full upper body day, and just being able to pivot when things like that come up. And then I think cueing is also a huge thing that I always look for, is being able to provide proper safety cues, like challenge cues, knowing when to properly challenge the client, knowing when to motivate them. There's so many things that I look for, but those are probably some of the big ones.
Yeah, with regards to cueing, experience is going to be a big decider in the
Mm-hmm.
language that you use, right? What what do you look for that determines what sort of language you use in your cues? Because you could have someone with no experience, in which case, you know, you're going to have to be. It's really hard to get the phrasing right when someone
Mm-hmm.
has no perception of self in space, right? And so what you say, they might think they're doing, but they're not doing, versus someone who has some experience, you can kind of tell them to do a thing. And so if someone has no experience, how do you go about phrasing, I guess?
I think something that I see, and this is something that comes up when I'm teaching my like NASM CPT prep course, and we're doing all the like anatomy chapters and stuff, is the students will ask, like, so when I'm cueing, do I tell someone like, you know, you should be feeling this in your biceps femoris, like whatever? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, no.
Absolutely.
I'm like, you're not gonna, they're gonna look at you like you're crazy. And they're probably gonna think you're talking about their bicep here. And
Right.
they're gonna look at you like you're crazy. Um, so I think when it comes, I mean, that's pretty much any time I'm training someone, like I'm always telling them they should be like, when you're thinking about those like anatomy cues, that you can tell them they should be feeling it, kind of like point to where they should be feeling
Yes.
it, or like giving them other cues that they can have, like instead of telling them to you could tell them like to squeeze their shoulder blades together instead of using those like anatomy terms.
Yep.
I think it's something that I incorporate a lot to make the cues more what's so easy to understand.
Yeah. 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 I totally agree. You know, it's different if it's peers talking,
Mhm.
and it's coach to coach, and you can be as technical as you want, and the other coach is going to get it. But when you're talking with someone who maybe took anatomy in high school, maybe didn't, um, just having them pay attention to sensation, because and then the nice thing is, if they're supposed to feel something, you know in their shoulder, if they're doing like a lateral raise, but they're feeling it in their traps, like, actually I kind of feel it more up here. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, now I can watch them do it, see where they're screwing up in terms of their form, and say, oh, okay, gotcha, we just need to adjust this or whatever, that sort of thing. And um, really just getting them to build that relationship with their body, which is
Yes.
obviously easier said than done. Um, Now, thinking about your career going forward, what's like the dream scenario?
Hard.
I know.
I don't know. Like, I don't have something that is necessarily like a one thing I like once I'm here, like I'm at the top. Like, I don't know. I kind of see myself going different ways. Like, there's the side of me that wants to stay in the higher ed student affairs realm and work myself up in that regard. And that would be more like VP of student affairs, VP of student well-being, like at a university. And then there's also the side of me that's like, well, but fitness, I do love fitness, and fitness has always been like a part of my life. And is that something that I try to like keep rolling with and make that more of like a full time, or I mean, it kind of is, it's full time right now, but it's also in the student affairs stuff
Right.
too. But do I go like fully fitness, like outside of higher education, outside of student affairs, and try to do whatever it may be? Is it working for like a fitness company full time? Is it doing something of my own, like opening up a studio or, something like that. I don't know. I'm just enjoying where I'm at right now and seeing what happens next.
I love it. I think sometimes having a plan can be a little bit overrated. In that I think your mindset is good. It's just drink up the experience because you
Mm-hmm.
never know who you're going to meet. You never know what
Exactly.
opportunities are going to open up. I think it's easy when you look back on your life to be like, oh, this led to this, which led to this, which led to this. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're in it, you're like, what's going to happen next? You really don't know until the opportunity strikes. So I think it's good to have be open to multiple options.
Yes.
I That's definitely how I am for sure. So I relate to you a lot in that regard. I do want to get into your personal fitness, the personal fitness side of things for you. So, what kind of sports did you play growing up? Like, were you into fitness in that regard? Did you play soccer? What was the deal?
Growing up, I tried a little bit of everything. I was a gymnast was probably the main thing, but I did it for a very long time, or
That
I
rings
did
a
it
bell.
from a very young age, but I only did it up until I want to say like eighth grade. So I didn't make it to be that old in it, but I just did it from the time I was like 3. So it feels like I did it for a really long time. Um, and then I like played soccer. Never really liked soccer though. I wasn't very good. And then I played field hockey. That was my main sport
Yeah. Uh
in
huh.
high school. Also ran track, pole vaulted a little bit because why not?
Why not? What were your events in track?
I did the 800. I wasn't that great though. I just was there for a good time.
800 sucks.
The 800 does suck. I always said, and I never knew if it was just because like I ran it, but I always said the 800 and the 300 hurdles were the hardest two events in track. I did not do the hurdles, but I was like, I swear, when I run the 400 and when I run the 800, I'm not running any slower in the 800, but I have to do it twice. And then the hurdles just, I mean, that's so hard. And then
It's
to do
silly.
it's so hard.
Yeah,
But
it is. It is. I did a 800 and mile with the occasional 4 when I was in high school, and yeah, the 800 is just
it's
God. It's
just
the worst because you finish your first lap and you're like, can I be can I be done? Yeah, it's so weird. It's like I'm kind of pacing myself, but also I can't really pace myself that much.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and you nothing feels harder in my opinion than doing an 800, sometimes a 400. But okay, so you did track, you did a bunch of stuff, gymnastics until you were 8th grade. Main sport was field hockey. What else?
Oh, and I swam in high school, but only
Oh,
my
okay.
senior year of high school. Yeah, that was just
Really? Joined swim team senior year of
I
high
know.
school.
Isn't that crazy?
That
I
is
don't know.
crazy.
It kind of ties into the triathlon stuff, though.
Cool.
I don't know if we want to save that, but that was why I did it, was to start to train for my first triathlon. I did
Wait, the one you didn't the so you started swimming in high school to eventually train for a triathlon?
not. So I wanted to do in high school was when I started getting this triathlon
Bug?
bug. Yeah.
Why?
I honestly don't. I'm from Williamsburg, Virginia, and there were like 3 triathlons in Williamsburg every summer. And
Okay.
so I kind of grew up knowing like they would happen every year. I would sometimes see them. My field hockey team would always volunteer at one of them every summer. So I would get to we would volunteer on the run course, which was also as fun. We get kind of the most interaction with people when they're on the run.
Sure.
And I don't know, I just something in me was just like I kind of want to do a triathlon. Like I don't know. Um, and so my senior year of high school, yeah, this our swim was a winter sport. So it started in like January, February. And I was like, this could be good because I grew up doing summer swim team and I was a lifeguard. So I like knew how to swim. It wasn't
Okay.
like a foreign thing. Like I knew how. I did summer swim when I was like a kid, like 7. And then I was a lifeguard. Swimming wasn't like unheard of for me, but I joined the swim team my senior year. My sister was also a competitive swimmer.
Mm.
Um, so swim was always like, I knew a lot about swimming. And she was a freshman in high school when I was a senior. So I was like, well, this could also be fun. Like, we can do a sport together. She's going to be so much faster than me, but it's okay. It'll be fun. And my parents were also really happy about that because we practiced before school. My school started at 7:20, so like our practice was at like 5. So my parents were very happy because that meant that
Or
Dana
you could
could
drive her.
drive
Yeah.
to Valley in practice. Um, so yeah, so did swimming my senior year, and that was that.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
So field hockey is a fall sport, right?
yeah, that was a fall sport.
And then winter swim, and then you did track your senior
Track,
year.
track my senior year in the spring, and the other years I had done spring track.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so yeah, year-round athlete. Um, what does your training look like when you go off to undergrad?
In college. So that was when I ended up not doing the triathlon.
Right.
I kind of realized how expensive it was going to be. I didn't have a bike. Like I was, 18. I was like, I don't have money for that. So ended up not doing the triathlon, kind of put it on the back burner. But when I went off to college, I was definitely kind of figuring out how to work out on my own, kind of, because, through being in sports all the time, I feel like a lot of people go through that. And then you go to college and you got to kind of figure out what your exercise routine is going to look like. So I initially was running a good amount. So I ran all the time, field hockey track. And then it was probably not until, and then I started teaching. So
Mm,
that's what kind of got me pretty active with the cycling. I started doing a lot of indoor cycling.
right.
Um, and then it wasn't until my sophomore year that I really started getting into like weight training. And that
Okay.
was kind of when that kind of switched and I kind of stopped as much of the running. I was still doing a lot of the cycling because I was still teaching and stuff, but like my primary form of exercise became weight training. And that was like, yeah, like beginning of my sophomore year.
And did you notice like did you feel like your muscles got bigger? Did you feel stronger? Like was there any confidence? Like what was the change when you started to do some weight training?
I say, yeah, I definitely feel like I started seeing like a lot more like definition in my upper body, like in my arms and my back, which I really liked. So that definitely kind of kept me going. I was definitely still like running and doing cardio like sometimes, but I'll say I definitely got the muscle building bug during
Totally.
that time.
That's awesome. So you continue that through college.
Yeah, pretty much all through sophomore year, junior year, senior year were all pretty. I was big in the weight training, wanting to like lift. I never got into like bodybuilding or powerlifting like competitions, but like my goals were to like lift as heavy as possible. Like I wanted to squat, I was deadlifting, benching sometimes. I didn't care as much about the bench, but like those were like my primary all the time, like 5 days a week
Oh
lifting,
yeah.
all of it.
Love it. Love it. Did your training change at all when you went to Chapel Hill?
That's probably when it started to change because I think just trying to get into a routine then with having, my first like more full-time job definitely was a challenge at first. When I started coaching at Orange Theory, I took classes usually like 2 to 3 times a week,
Yeah, I remember.
which I really enjoy because that's kind of what got me a little bit more back into running was through doing a lot of the like Orange Theory classes. Um, and then when I was at Chapel Hill, it was definitely still strength training, not nearly as I'll say I was not that I wasn't doing it as much, but I wasn't doing it as intensively as I had been doing it previously because it was this is why I'm like why did something change? Right before I started at Chapel Hill, I did my first triathlon. So it was like July of 2022. So I graduated college and I was like, okay, I have wanted to do a triathlon for so long. I wanted to do it all throughout college. I thought about it, but it was like, I was making the excuses. I don't have
Totally.
time. I don't have the resources. I don't have the space. You need a lot of space to like train for a triathlon in terms of like area to bike. Um,
Yeah.
And I was like, I just, no. And so when I graduated, this was May, and then I started at Chapel Hill in August. So I was like, this is perfect. I can't say I don't have time because I have nothing to do for the next
Right.
3 months. I was working as a personal trainer and a coach at a small gym, but that was about it. So trained for my first triathlon, bought like a bike on Amazon, got a membership to the YMCA in Williamsburg. So I was swimming there, was running, biking in Williamsburg, did my first triathlon. And so after that, and then I started at Chapel Hill, and it was kind of like figuring out what my exercise routine was going to look like. And then come like January ish, I decided I wanted to do another triathlon. So then I started training for one that I did that following summer. So that would have been like
Oh.
summer of 2023.
So real quick for the audience, what does a triathlon entail?
So a triathlon is swim, bike, run. There's different distances. The ones that I did, the first two I did that I was just talking about, were an Olympic distance, which is the kind of like second tier distance. And it's normally like I can't remember if it's 0.9 or a mile open water swim, but somewhere in that range. And then it's usually between like a 12 to 13 mile bike. And then, no, sorry. A 0.9 to a 1 mile swim, a 24 to 26 mile bike, and then a 10K.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. When you gave that bike distance, I was like, that seems like not that bad.
That's the sprint distance bike. The
Okay,
sprint is like a 750-meter swim, a 13-mile bike, and then a 5K.
gotcha. Okay. And when you were training the first time, what was that like? And then how did it train for the second one? Change for the second one?
So when I was training for the first one, I genuinely had no idea what I was doing. And that's where I'd say, like, I was I say I was like a beginner, but I did know, like, I had background in swimming, so I knew how to swim. I had background in running, but at that time, like, the furthest I had ever run had been a 10K, and that was probably like 2 years prior. Like, I had done it maybe like a few times. Um, and then biking, I was like, well, I can pedal, like I can ride a bike, but I didn't own a proper bike. Like, I had no idea how to like bike competitively. Um, so it was definitely a lot of learning, a lot of just trying it and seeing how it goes and then adjusting from there. And then when I trained for the second one, I think when I trained for the second one, I honestly feel like not there wasn't like too much of a shift, to be honest. Like, I kind of trained for that one. I didn't train for that one nearly as intense as I trained for the first one. So I think that's maybe why I didn't feel like there was too much of a shift. But I definitely felt more confident like going into
Sure.
it because I knew it was something that I had already done. I knew I had, I was going to be starting at a more advanced level than I had started when I trained for the first one.
Right.
Um, but I think going into training for the second one, I really wanted to try to keep up strength training as well, which is something that I definitely still struggle with when you're training for any sort of like endurance event. Keeping up the strength training is a very hard balance to master.
It's very challenging because, like, you were talking about time, and time is different when you're someone who doesn't work out and you're like, I don't have time. It's like, I
Mhm.
don't believe you. But it's different when you're training for something like that and you're like, I have to hit my swim goal. I have to hit my
Yeah.
run goal. I have to hit my cycle goal. Also, I want to keep up with strength training, but so you have to be very specific with your lifts, like what don't you want to lose progress on? And then the rest you're like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
How do you
And then
make that
it's,
decision?
huh?
How do you make the decision what to train when you're doing strength training whilst training for the triathlon?
So I think that's something my answer, if you were to have asked me like then, would be totally different than what I'm about to say. But now, where I decide is based off of, at least for lower body specifically, is based off of I train lower body specifically for how like a runner would train lower
Yep.
body. Like, I don't really go in and try to like max out my squat or like squat heavy. Like I'm doing a lot of like plyometric unilateral exercises when I train lower body, because that's kind of what mimics what happens when you're running.
Split
Um,
squats, single leg deadlifts, that sort of
all
thing.
single leg deadlifts are like one of my favorites, like single leg calf raises,
Mm,
any sort of like box jump. Like I like to add in those sorts of like plyometric kind of agility, more like agility sort of like exercises as
uh,
well. A lot of like banded work too. I'll do, especially as I warm up, like for kind of like
yeah.
activation purposes. But a lot of single leg deadlifts are like my number one exercise that I'm doing every single leg day. And I had that switch because previously I was kind of doing the same leg day routines that I normally would. It would be like I would squat and then I would, do leg extension, leg curl, leg press, like the stuff that I would normally do. And I'll still do some of that. But where I really had the switch was I had like a bit of an ankle injury back in, I guess, like March-ish or January, February, somewhere around there. And I went to physical therapy for it because it was just bothering me. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And it was exactly that. Like I was not, for the amount that I was running, I was not supplementing with the proper strength training exercises enough to, and like a little bit of imbalance going on, like between, my right and my left. My right side's a bit stronger.
Yeah, everyone's got that. Yep.
Yeah, and like I've always been a more quad dominant person, and like so my hamstrings and my calves, like just and my glutes were just not, I was not training all those muscle areas properly to keep up with the amount that I was running. So that's really what shifted the way that I train, strength train now when I'm training for triathlons.
Yeah. Huge. Huge. Yeah, I had a during COVID I got a low back injury. I was doing some manual labor and I was being an idiot and not lifting the things I was lifting with proper form, and also just like how many of these things can I lift at once? Just like dumb young guy stuff. And so um, tweaked my lower back, and you know being a personal trainer, it's like you can kind of do some stuff. And my wife's a yoga instructor, so I was helping with that. But um, I was doing down dog, and like it just looked terrible. And my wife took a photo of it and sent it to one of her coworkers or something who worked at the yoga studio, and they were like, "Well, he needs to do more butt stuff," was the exact phrase. And I kid you not, as soon as I started doing more like deep stretch
Mhm.
squats where like you get as deep as you can, and I was kind of doing like a sumo variety as well, I was like, wow, that almost immediately alleviated my low back pain. And so as someone who has had weak glutes before, switching the focus onto that, especially being I was also a runner, so like my hip flexors were
Mhm.
super tight, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
like switching to strengthening your glutes and even like activating them in the warm up prior to
Yeah.
running or lifting, whew, what a game changer
Mhm.
that has been. And now I just don't have low back pain anymore.
Yeah.
So nice. So nice. Um, well, so you have two Instagrams, right?
Yeah.
So when did you start your DK Fit one?
So my DK Fit Instagram made the summer or right when I graduated from JMU. So when I was training for my very first triathlon,
Okay.
that's when I made that account and I just was documenting everything. I really didn't know how to like make a TikTok. I was just recording a bunch of videos and putting them together. And then once I did that triathlon, and that was July of 2022, I kind of stopped using that account. And then I don't think I didn't start using it again until I was training for my first Ironman 70.3.
And so let's talk about that. What
Mhm.
what what pushed you to want to do an Ironman? What is an Ironman? What pushed you to want to do it? And then let's talk training.
So an Ironman is a triathlon. Ironman is a brand, and they have two different triathlon distances. They have the half Ironman and the full Ironman. So the Ironman 70.3 is the half, which is a 1.2 mile swim, a 56 mile bike, and then a 13.1 mile run. And then the full distance Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike, and then a 26.2 mile run. So that one is 140.6 miles altogether.
That swim, swimming is where I'm weakest. And that I mean, I just couldn't do it. So one of the cool things I've been thinking about, because I've been looking forward to doing this pod and talking about the Ironman, is like, generally speaking, I'm like reasonably fit guy. Most things I could like go do outside of like, like a sport specific. I'm not like, no, not basketball or football, like nothing technical. I mean, but like a physical endeavor I can go do. And even if I haven't trained for it, be reasonably good at it, I would say. But if I were to go do an Ironman tomorrow, I would have to tap out. I couldn't even get through the swim. So, there are people who are not swimmers who, if they wanted to, could train and get to that distance. But like, that's just such a crazy feat. And we'll talk about your training, but what got into your head where you're like, all right, I'm doing that. This is the thing.
Yeah, that is I learned about Ironman. I remember so well. I learned about it it was like January of 2020 because which was right before COVID. So this was my spring semester of my sophomore year at JMU. And one of our like gen ed requirements was either to take like Health 100, which was like a lecture class, or to take Kinesiology 101 section. And there were like all these different ones. A lot of the main ones were like HIIT, strength training, there was like a yoga one, I think. I signed up for a triathlon one, of course. And I remember like seeing it, and it was like a 9 a.m. class, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like it was not, and a lot of people try to avoid Friday classes, and Fridays were like the swim days.
Okay.
So we were like swimming every Friday morning. And I signed up for this class, and my instructor had just done an Ironman in September. So this was September, and this was January. And she was like talking about Ironman. And I was like, what is that? And I remember like going home and looking it up and being like, that is absolutely insane. Like I remember telling my parents about it. I was like, guys, like I have this professor, like she'd have her Ironman backpack on. And I'm like, she just did this Ironman. Like that is so crazy to bike for 112 miles and then run a marathon. Like what? But like, I don't know, something in me, I remember that moment so well that I'm like, something in me knew I was going to do that, like do that one day. Like I thought it was so crazy, but like I knew it was something I wanted to strive for one day. At that time I knew it wouldn't be like that year. I mean, that was 2020 and I did this race in 2025. So it was a 5 years later that I ended up doing it. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. I just knew, like, I heard about it. I never stopped thinking about it. Like, it was something I always kept in the back of my mind. And I just knew that it was just a matter of when I was going to do it. It wasn't if.
Okay. I love that. When did you realize it was time?
So I knew my first step would be like doing a sprint or an Olympic distance triathlon first, which were like 0.9 swim, 26 bike, and the 10K. Like I knew I would do something smaller before I went to the Ironmans. So that was like the first step. And then I think I wanted to so when I went to the University of Georgia, I was like, okay, I've got these 2 years in grad school. I'm busy in grad school. I'm a full-time student, and my graduate assistantship was like working 20 hours a week. So I'm like pretty split between class and work all the time. Like I get a decent amount of flexibility in my schedule. Like it's not a strict like 8 to 5 routine. So I was like, okay. So I started looking to see what, so that's when I started looking. So this would have been, I started grad school in August of 2023. There's the Ironman 70.3 in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay.
In September. And I was like, okay, that could be good to do next year. Like do it in September of 2024. Mm-hmm. But I was kind of like wishy-washy. And then it was finally March of 2024 was when I was like, this is enough. I'm doing the Ironman 70.3 Augusta in September, and I'm going to start training now. And so I did. I remember I did a Spartan race in March, and then it was like the next week I was like, I'm going to start my training plan that'll give me from March to September to like lock it in, you know, see what
So,
happens.
so
Um,
six and a half-ish months.
yeah. Yeah. And so I trained all through March,
How
April,
did you
May.
plan it out initially? Like, obviously you've got the background, okay? Like we've established what your education is and your experience, but like still planning out that amount of training, how did you go about that?
A lot of people ask me that. And starting out, I really was doing just a lot of, because I didn't hire a coach or anything.
Sure. Yeah,
All it was all self coached.
that's the way to do it.
And yeah, and with that comes like I definitely had to be very aware with myself, like I do have to have a good amount of like discipline, and like, but I wanted this like really bad. So I think that's also where it came down, that I was able to do this without
The
having
why was
a coach,
there.
because the why was there. Like I wanted it so bad. And it really came with a lot of just trial and error. Like I knew through like different, researching this, like I kind of figured out kind of what my hours per week should look like in terms of training. So I was training normally between anywhere from like 15 to 18 hours a week. And some people do less. I mean, there are weeks where I had like closer to like 13. There were weeks that I went up to like 20. But and then I knew I wanted to, I knew honestly for me, which I knew biking was where I needed to spend the most time. Um, so I spent a lot of time like working on my power and my cadence and stuff on the bike. I knew I also needed to work a lot on my swimming, but at the same time, I also knew that like swimming makes up the smallest portion of the race. So like at the end of the day, it's like if I finish the swim in 36 minutes versus if it takes me 39,
Doesn't matter.
it
2 minutes
really,
with a cycle or a run
with
is
the
nothing.
bike, like if it's really like, that's one of the things too that I feel like people don't always realize is like the swim really does take up such, I mean, if you're going to take like, if we're going to look at like a 36-minute versus an hour and 10 minutes, which is like your cap, like that's a big
Of
gap. But like
course.
a lot of those people, where most people fall, at least in the 70.3 distance, like I was really trying to go for, I think 36 minutes was like my goal.
And what's the distance again?
2 miles. So it's
Okay.
about 2,200 yards. But like at the end of the day, I'm like, if I can have a strong, if I can really nail down my bike, like that is more important than me trying to go a minute and a half faster on the swim.
I would agree with that. That makes sense logically.
Yeah. So I think really with the training plan, it really just came down to kind of trial and error. I've said that so many times, but like figuring it out. And I would kind of have like 4 weeks hard and then kind of like a bit of a more of a like recovery week, and like 4 weeks hard, a little bit of a recovery week. But I would also fluctuate that, where I would look at my schedule and I knew if there was a week like I was going out of town or I wasn't going to have access to like a pool or be able to bike, like I would kind of like move it around. It would make my recovery week a week later or a week earlier, just kind of depending on what my schedule looked like. So it really kind of changed just depending on what I had happening.
Listen, I think whether you're a professional athlete, a recreational athlete, whatever, if you're training for something specific, being able to adapt
Yes.
is just so crucial.
Yeah.
Um, did you ever struggle with, okay, I said I was going to do this, so I have to do it, but then also like, well, I know I said I was going to do this, but the reality of the situation is I have to pivot. Like like what I'm getting at is like, I trained for an event at the Arnold Classic this past March, and I would run into this problem where some days you wake up and you don't want to train, right? You're like, God, this is gonna suck. But you are committed, and so you do it. But it would be cold out, and there would be ice on the track. It's like, well, I said I was gonna do this speed work today. I really don't want to do it, but it's also not safe to do it. Like there's a half inch of ice, I'm going to eat it and hurt myself. And I would have like this battle in my head where it's like, do you really just not want to do it? Or actually does it make rational sense, and actually for your own safety or just for the sake of being adaptable, like you have to pivot and do something else? Did you ever run into that where it's like, well, I don't want to be weak in my mind because I said I was going to do this, but I actually do need to adapt? Did you run into that?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of times that I ran into things like that where either like my ankle injury was kind of one of them before I actually realized, like, am I just being like, weak about something like it, maybe it doesn't really hurt, I don't know. Um, Things like that are like, I could still do this, I could still do that. And then yes, similar things with either if it was weather conditions or if I was just like honestly physically so exhausted. And there were definitely times that I did like either move a workout or like take an unplanned rest day or an unplanned rest week. That happened, I think, only one time that I fully just took a, that was when training for my full Ironman. I was just in such a slump, and like every single workout I was doing was bad. Like it was slower. I just felt so exhausted. I mean, I track all my stuff on my Garmin, and like I could even see in like my HRV and like my training sets, like I was just so strained. And I was like, I don't want to like I want to take this recovery week, but like at the same time, I don't want to because it's gonna skew the whole rest of my training plan program that I have. And like, am I just, that internal thoughts, like, am I just being weak? Am I making excuses? Am I, just looking for a reason not to be able, not have to do this? And in that situation specifically, I did take a full like week off. I did absolutely nothing, and it ended
Nice.
up being the best decision, like for my
Good.
mental well-being, for my physical health. Like I needed it in that situation, but it was definitely hard to like make that decision and to not get down on myself about it, because afterwards I was able to see like, okay, no, I do actually feel a lot better now, but like making that decision was definitely hard.
Yeah, it's a battle. It's a battle. I commend you because, you know, 6 months of training is a long time to like, that's a far away goal. I mean, obviously the older we get, time kind of feels like it's going by
Mhm.
faster. And so like in a certain sense, like 6 months is too long, but like
Yeah.
to stick with one program.
Yeah, and that
Um,
that one that one too was when I went to St. Petersburg, Florida all that summer. So like I was, I had an internship. So like my whole schedule just basically changed. So like that was also hard, just adapting to a whole new schedule, a whole new job that I had that summer, whole new place. Um
Climate to train in.
Climate, yes, climate, yeah, it was so much hotter. But that race, the Augusta one, actually ended up being canceled. So I didn't do it that September,
Uh-huh.
because Hurricane Helene happened.
Right, right.
Sold. The race was supposed to be on Sunday, and I think it was canceled Friday morning, I
Okay.
want to say, because I
Wow.
think, yeah, like my parents were like supposed to be leaving Friday, and it like got canceled that morning, and like I was devastated. Like I was, because it wasn't supposed to go through Augusta
Okay.
initially. It was on, I think, if I remember correctly, like I think what happened, because I was in Athens and it was supposed to come through Athens pretty bad.
Okay.
Um, and it kind of like swerved and went to Augusta instead, because Augusta was not prepared. Like there was no communication from Ironman being like, yes, storm, like that. And I'm in all these Facebook groups, like nobody was really talking about it or like stressed about it because it wasn't, they were going to get like rain, but like that was it. Um,
Jeez.
and this was like Thursday night that it was happening, and the race was Sunday, so there was still some time, and they're still like coming back from some of the stuff that happened, because it's also, I mean, it's a smaller town, and they just, like I said, were not prepared for all the stuff that happened. So I mean, it was terrible, but I mean, they definitely made the right decision not having the race, because I mean, you would have had 2,000 plus people coming into this place that could not
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
stay.
that would have been truly even more devastating.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, what was your experience like? So wait, it's today's October 5th at the time of recording this. What when did the race happen that you just did?
The race I just did was September 20th. So it was like
So
just 2 weeks as of yesterday.
awesome. What was the mindset like? Like you? So you're at the starting line, right? You're about to swim. You're there. You've been training for so long. What's going through your head at that time?
I was so excited to be there. This was my first full distance Ironman, and I had done two 70.3s prior to this full, but this had always been my goal. Like when I started training in March of 2024, this was my end goal. Like the 70.3s were an amazing accomplishment. I was so happy to do those, but they were all like I really viewed those as like a stepping stone to get
Yeah.
to doing the full. And then I was obviously nervous, but I was so much more excited than I was nervous because I knew I had trained so hard. I was just so grateful to be there and grateful that I had the ability to like even be there. Ironman is a very something I love about the Ironman brand and just being at those races is it's you might like sometimes it's easy to just assume that everybody doing these races are these incredibly, physically fit people that look like this.
Mm,
But when you go there, you just realize like there's just people from all different walks of life, like all different ages. You've got like adaptive athletes there. Like it's just such an inspiring community to like be in. And that was something I initially realized, like the very first Ironman branded event that I did. That was something that I realized and something that's really like inspired me, and also just hearing Ironman puts out all these videos every race, and so you really get to hear about like people's stories and like how they got there. And some people it's taken, this is their third attempt at like doing this race because they haven't finished the time before, and like this was the time that like they finished and they crossed the finish line. So it just gives you those thoughts. It's like, well, if they can do it and they've been through all this stuff in life, they've had all these things that they've overcome, like I can do it. Like
hell
I
yeah.
can do this. So I think I definitely was around a lot of people that I knew had probably been through a lot more than I have been through, and they were there showing up. And so I
Yep.
knew that I could be there and show up and get it done. And
Huge.
I was honestly the only thing I was worried about was the jellyfish because the swim there were jellyfish. Yeah.
I would be super worried about jellyfish. I mean, the ocean in general, you just don't know what's going
I
on down
know.
there. So,
But it was amazing. It was a great experience.
what was the hardest point, like mentally, where you're just like feeling it?
I think honestly, I mean, on the swim, it's definitely the most like stress, like you, the, like I felt the most just stressed out on the swim. Like, I mean, anytime you're starting, just getting in the water and getting in the rhythm is a bit, takes a little bit. And then on top of the jellyfish, definitely added some added stress points. But I think once I got in the motion of the swim, I just kept telling myself, like, don't freak out. Like, don't freak out. Like, just kept trying to remind myself to just be calm and to like really focus on my breathing, getting into like the rhythm of the swim. And then I think the bike was honestly pretty strong overall. I had one hard mental spot on the bike on the second loop around. There was like a 13-mile stretch that had really bad headwind. I I did so the Ironman race I had done prior to this was a 70.3 in Texas, and that was probably the like it was the hardest race I've ever done, like mentally, because the winds were incredibly bad. Like the swim had been canceled that race. So it had already thrown off because the weather was so bad. It had already thrown off my mojo,
Sure.
And this race, it was 56 miles of like pure, you're like biking on an angle because the wind was so bad. So the wind already, like, it kind of traumatizes me a little bit because it was just so bad. Um, And like, this was just a hard headwind. So like I'm pedaling and I'm pushing so hard and I look at my speed and I'm going so much slower than I feel like I should be going. But once I got through that, going out on the run was I mean, it was hard, but it was good. I'll say once it miles like 21 through 23, I kind of had a feeling we're going to be probably the hardest. And that definitely was the hardest because that by that point it had gotten dark. I was on the part of the course that didn't have many spectators, so you're kind of by yourself. You're not allowed to have any music when you do any sort of triathlon. So there's no headphones, there's no music, there's no podcast.
Oh, that's cool.
It's just you and your thoughts.
I like that. So I often will train with no music. So I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Yeah. I will do a little bit of both. But yeah, no music, no headphones.
Hardcore.
Yeah. But once I got through mile 23, it was like the home stretch.
Totally. At that point, you're like, just 5K, I guess a little bit more, 3.2, but
Yeah.
But yeah, you're like, oh, I got this. Finish line. What was that like?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, the Maryland course was fun because it was like 3 loops, but then that got you to like 24. And then you kind of went back through again through like this park, and then you looped through downtown one more time, and that was fun because it's like bars and restaurants, and so people are there and they're like cheering you on. So that whole part was so much fun where you go back through, especially when you're on your last lap because you're so excited
Just
at that
geeked,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, you're in your last like 2 miles, and I knew in my head, I was like, those 2 miles don't count because there's gonna be people everywhere. It's gonna be so much fun. And then when I made the final like turn to go down the red carpet is what's called, like the Ironman red carpet, I honestly, I was so excited, and I was so throughout the whole race, I had no idea what my time was because I had messed up my watch tracking. So I knew like when I was running, I could see what my pace was and stuff, but I knew my overall time was off. I didn't really know by how much, but I just knew it was off. And I really wanted to, going into this race, I didn't have like a hardcore, like I wanted my goal time to be very realistic because I just know how I am. Like I wanted sub 14 hours. And I was like, that'll be that. And then from there, we'll go from there. I knew if everything went as planned, like I could do that. And I don't know why. Like I had this thought that I was like coming up really close to the 14-hour marks. I didn't even look what time it was because I knew if I started like over analyzing where I was at, and I did realize I did happen to be like past my goal time, I was just gonna like get on myself, and I was like gonna get upset. I was like, it's not worth it. Just be right here, be right now, go. And so when I came down, I saw like the time, and I was like, I was so excited because it was so much like it was so much earlier in the day than I thought it was. And so I mean, it was so much fun. I didn't even see my parents coming down because the lights were so bright. And like when I saw the recording that my dad had taken, I was like, oh, I ran like right by y'all, but I didn't even see y'all. Like the lights were just like blinding me. But it was so much fun. I finished in 13 hours and 18 minutes. And so now my next goal is a sub 13. And I think honestly, if I had some slight issues on the run at one point, but that mile like 20 through 23, I slowed down a lot because I was having some stomach problems with everything. And so I'm like, if I wouldn't have had that, I think I probably could have come in under 13. So now I'm just like, well, now I know. Going into the next one, a very achievable goal if everything goes to plan is a sub 13. And then we just keep going from there.
Wow. So what is nutrition like when you're doing an Ironman? Like, are you doing gels? Like you have to have something, right?
Yeah, that's honestly, people always say in triathlon, like nutrition is the fourth discipline. So you got swim, bike, run, and then nutrition is your fourth, because if you don't have your nutrition locked in, then you're not going to have a good race. So, and that's where it comes so important in training too, that you're like, when you're doing your nutrition, when you're training, you're doing it like you will during the race.
Good point.
Yeah, the same products, the same everything. So it's like what you eat before, like not eating something that you don't normally eat when you have breakfast, It's
Right. Right.
all the things.
Remove as many variables as possible.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I do a lot of gels. And then like the honey stinger waffles I like too. Um, and then but on the bike, I do gels, but then I also do a lot of like liquid carbs. So like that's like huge. And I like the brand Tailwind is what I use a
Okay.
lot. So like that's what I use a lot of their like powders and stuff when I'm on the bike because it's has a good like a lot of sodium and it's like high in carbs. So that's like what's different than like your typical like just electrolyte powders. Those are like just the electrolytes, but like Tailwind and stuff. It actually it has more like substance to it than just having like sodium.
Yeah, you need the carbs when when you're working out for 13 hours.
Yeah,
That's for
you
sure.
need a lot. And then I also the only like solid foods that I had was a few like Cliff bars. The like Morton, I think is how you say it, but like they're like granola bars, it's like another brand. They sponsor all the Ironman stuff, and then Uncrustables. That that is like my holy grail of those. I ate one halfway through the bike, one when I started the run, and then one at like mile 18 of the run, and like that was the best.
Yo, yo. So, I've I've done a big paddle for the past 2 years.
Mhm.
And Uncrustables are one
Yes,
of the primary food groups.
yes.
Because it's like 20 some odd miles a day on a kayak, and
Wow.
we we just slam Uncrustables all
I
day.
mean, I like thought when I was like trying to think of something that I was like, what can I use that's gonna be, not another granola bar, like something that's gonna have a bit more like of a food that's not gonna make me, I can't like get a Jersey Mike sub like
Right.
halfway through the race. And I was like, I feel like Uncrustables would be good. And then I tried it once and I was like, yes. And then
It's
I realized I was like, I think actually people do this. It's like a common thing. So,
Yeah. Oh, it is. I mean,
mhm,
protein, fat, carbs.
mhm. A
It's
little bit of
great.
it all. And it
Yeah.
tastes good.
Yes. Right. And they taste good. Super easy to go down. Um, well, congrats on your success. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Um, one of the things that I thought was pretty cool about your training journey, like you were pretty consistent about, I don't know, like if you would call it a vlog, just like the TikToks, Instagram
Yeah,
stuff you would
all
put
my
on.
videos.
Yeah, that was all great. There was one you put up not too long ago, um, where you were like pretty emotionally vulnerable with regards to just like being upset with your run, like you had a long run that
I
was tough.
did. Yeah.
Um, what what about that moment did you feel was important to share? Um, yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, that day I will never forget that day. That was a very hard day. I think and I went back and forth on if I wanted to share that or not just because I think it can be so hard. So it's so easy to share all the fun of training and all the, I had this really awesome bike or I did this great swim, I did this great run. Um and then it's easy to share when things don't go well. Um And on this day specifically, I had gone out for my very first 20-mile run. And I had been, I think it was half like a mental block. Like I had been not wanting to do, like I had run 18 miles a few times, but like going to 20, I was like, no, like I can't do 20. I can do 19 and a half, but
Huh.
20, no.
Too much, yeah.
And I had already kind of picked probably not the best day to try to go out for this 20-mile run because I had been at work all day. I didn't start it till like 3 o'clock. But I I think it was one of those situations where like the next weekend I was gonna be gone and like I was like, I need to get this done this weekend. So I went out for 20 miles. It was not going well like the entire time, but I kept like trying to push through. I think I got to mile 12 pretty like I was doing okay. And then just everything just started going wrong. I mean, my stomach like felt terrible, my like knees were really bothering me, my mind I just was not there mentally either. And I got to mile 15 and I just started crying. I just stopped and I just like started just bawling my eyes out. And it was funny because I never wear like or intentionally wear makeup when I run. But this day I had been at work, so I happened to have mascara on and I didn't take it off before. And so it's just all down my face. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I'm just like trying to decide if I'm going to try to keep going. But I was having like terrible pain in my back. Like everything just hurt. It was just one of those days. And I had my boyfriend come and pick me up. And he comes and picks me up. And I was just sobbing, about like how this run had just not gone well and how I just felt like, how am I supposed to run a marathon after biking 112 miles if like I can't make it through this run right now without falling to pieces. And I think it, I looking back, I'm definitely glad that I kind of shared how I was feeling in that moment, because I think when you're training for anything, there's going to be days when you don't feel strong and days when the workouts that you have planned, like they don't go how you want them to go. And I think it's important to share those moments because it's so easy to compare yourself to everyone that you see online when everyone seems like they're having every single workout they do is the best workout ever. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just not the reality of how it goes when you're training for something. And so I think I was able to I knew, and I typically wouldn't have even like recorded myself during that moment, but like I was sitting there and like I just knew, I was like, I am so upset right now, but I know I'm going to look back on this and I'm going to kind of like laugh a little bit. And so
Sure.
that was why I pulled out my phone, because I was like, I need some sort of, I don't know. I just was like, I know I'm going to look at this and laugh because I'm going to do this run. It's not today.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would say like that was probably like my lowest point in my training. But then the next weekend I went out and I did my 20-mile run, and that was that. And I'll say like I definitely like I say it to people all the time. Like it's all about how you get back up. Like after you fail, like after you fail something, it's all about how you use that and like pick yourself back up and then keep going forward. So you gotta practice what I preach.
Yeah, oh, totally. Well, I don't know if you're a Batman fan at all, but in one of the Batman movies, his butler, Alfred, says to him, he's like, "Why do we fall, Master Wayne? So we can learn to get back up." And,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a simple quote, but I think it heavily applies, and I think you hit the nail on the head. And also, yeah, I think it's important to practice what you preach. And I thought it was cool when I saw that training video, just because I had seen all the other training videos that you had done, and I've been pretty invested in this journey quietly on the sideline. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, word. I had some days similar to that, Jan or Feb, it doesn't matter, of this year. And so I got it, just like the frustration and how am I going to do this when it comes time to competition and all that. And yeah, I think every athlete, professional or recreational, goes through something like that. Um, and I think also for people who have a goal like that in mind, it's good to see that, where it's like, this is what it's going to be like. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. So if you're committing to something like this, like, be ready to slog through some shit,
Mm-hmm.
because it's coming.
Yeah.
So now that you've done this, like, do you feel different as a person? Personality traits aside, obviously you probably say same personality traits, but like confidence wise or anything like that, do you feel new or different?
I definitely feel like, just it gave me a sense of confidence in that I've always felt like I've had the trait that's like, if I want something, I'm gonna do it. Like I've always had that drive, but like this one really, like there's never been nothing to this degree that I've wanted for, like I said, I've 5 years that I've wanted this, and like finally put like, and there was nobody, like it was all me, like there was nobody else, like it was like fully something that like I committed to, and like I made the plan. I, figured out how I'm gonna get a bike. I mean, getting a bike is not cheap, and I knew that. And so figuring out, this is something that I really want. Like, how am I going to make this so that I can afford
Right.
doing
Yeah. You got to pay for it.
this? Um, and I think it definitely gave me like the sense of confidence. Like if I want something, I can do it. And like just what my body is capable of. Like I feel like that in my mind, like that is really where I think I really showed myself like what I'm capable of in that sense, because it's like, I mean, you hear your mind gives up before your body gives up. And like, yes, like I started having these thoughts, which this is also just where I'm like, maybe I'm a little crazy. When I was like on the run, and I was like, I think I could do like, maybe I want to get into doing like ultra marathons, because I'm like, like honestly, like right now, this is like around mile 18 of the run. I'm like, I feel like pretty strong right now. Like I'm tired, but like I'm not letting myself think that I'm tired. Or like if something's hurting, I'm not letting myself think about any discomfort. Like I am just staying so mentally strong that all I can think about is like one foot in front of the other. Like I'm not letting myself go down this hole of like, oh, my knee is hurting. Oh, well, like now my back's kind of hurting, because once I start thinking about it, I don't know. I feel like then something starts hurting. So I would say like it definitely just gave me the confidence. Like if I want something, I can I can make it happen.
I mean, what a asset to have, right?
Yeah.
That's huge. What's in the future for you with regards to your personal endeavors?
I think it's that I'm doing the High Rocks in a month.
Right.
So that'll be next, but that I knew when we signed up for that, it was definitely more for fun. Like it's not something that we're trying to, and we're doing my boyfriend are doing it together, like the mixed doubles, and it's not.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yes,
Nice.
it's not
That's
something
fun.
that we're trying to do, like qualify for this or get a certain time. We're kind of just doing it for fun.
Gotcha.
Um, and so I think after that, definitely the rest of 2025, I'm just chilling. And then I think going into 2026, I really want to go back and do some more 70 point Ironman 70.3 races. Because like I said, I did. So my first one was in December 2024, and then I did Texas in April, and then I did the full. And so so in April after Texas was when I fully went into like training for the full Ironman. And since doing that, like just my perception on the distances for the half are so much, like I just feel like I could push so much harder on those
Gotcha.
distances now. So I really want to try to tap into that and see if how much faster I could go and
Yeah.
kind of get a little bit more competitive with my time.
Really perform. Uh-huh.
Now that I've done it, um, the distances aren't as scary to me anymore. And I think I could just like really push myself, especially on the bike.
Mm.
Especially on the bike. And then I don't know, like I said, and I think it would be fun to do some sort of like ultra race. I don't know if that's a 2026 or a 2027 goal, but I think I could definitely see myself going down that path at some point, but we'll see.
Awesome. That'd be so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you want to make sure you share with the listener here, Dana?
I'll share two of my favorite quotes. Okay, so my first one is just that no one starts off excellent to be brave enough to be a beginner. That is one of my favorites. And then my second one is actually I guess I have two more. My next one is kind of just I guess like philosophy that I've seen, kind of like how I think about my training philosophy, not just when it comes to Ironman, but just exercise in general, is just you start, you suck, you figure it out, and you get better. And I think that's really how I think about like my triathlon journey is like when I started, like I was not very good. Like I sucked at certain things, but like I figured it out. Like I researched, I tried again and I got better. And then my last one is what was my last one? Oh, just that being ready is not a feeling, it's a decision. That's something that I feel like really was what finally kind of got me going into the Ironman stuff was I kept feeling like, oh, I didn't feel ready. Like I don't feel like I'm conditioned enough or I have enough of this. And I finally was like, no, I have to decide. I have to decide to be ready. And then I figure it out from there.
I feel like that's just good life advice in
Mm-hmm.
general for those two.
Yeah.
I think with any sort of endeavor, you know, you can wait for the perfect opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
but the perfect opportunity never comes. It doesn't really exist. So just starting is the perfect time.
Exactly. Yep.
Nice. Those are good quotes. That was cool that you were able to whip those three out.
There's ones that I think about like all the time. So they're always like up in the front of my mind. Part of my, I guess, probably part of my why somewhere in there.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking this time. We almost did 2 hours. This is awesome. This was so much fun. I haven't had a fitness person on in a while, so it was just cool to, kind of catch up with you. And your journey is super inspiring. And I think for people who feel like maybe they're lacking a little bit of discipline, I feel like listening to your story and listening especially to those quotes that you just hit at the end will hopefully inspire them to just start. Just be willing to suck at the beginning.
Yes.
Are there any socials that you want to plug?
My fitness Instagram is dk.fit and then 2 underscores. And then my TikTok is just Dana Kiger.
Right on. Give her a follow. We'll say goodbye off air, but for now, peace out, everyone.
Bye.
Later.